Hello everybody, welcome to the First Mile Instagram Live, and this week's super special, we're doing a virtual Sacktory tour of our facility in London. For those of you who are new to First Mile, my name is Bruce Bratley, I'm the CEO and founder of the business. Today we're going to be showing you around our site in West London in Park Royal, where we process our material and all of our vehicles are deployed from here as well. We also have the head office site in Birmingham and our head office in Highbury. And today I'm very delighted to have Joe Allen, who's our Chief Commercial Officer, who is our film man today. So welcome. There he is. Excellent. So let's get on with the tour. We'll meet round here, Harolambi. This is Harolambi, who manages the Sacktory. How are you doing, Harolambi?
Hi there, everyone. Keep a nice day today with Bruce, yeah?
Excellent. Harolambi is going to be helping us on the tour as we go round. So if anyone's got any questions while we're doing the tour here, message them to us. Joe will have the normal questions that we'll tackle as we go round. So come on round. We have our wash station here, which has been updated for coronavirus. We're not going to go upstairs because that's all very socially distanced there, but when drivers come in, we practice social distancing. They get the temperature checked. We have loads of hand sanitizer, so all super coronavirus friendly. You'll notice when you go around the site today, Joe will just pan around a little bit as well. We have more vehicles in the yard than normal because we're obviously much less busy than normal with offices, retail, restaurants closed at the moment. We're starting to get busier as retail are opening towards the 15th of June, but there's more vehicles in the yard than we would normally have on a day-to-day operation. So the first thing we're going to have a look at is what we do with some specialist waste streams, which is confidential material. Now normally we wouldn't be allowed to film in this area records to shred for you, so it's not consumer waste. And we'll just take it first. So customers using our confidential waste service, which is white confidential paper, put it in the bag here, and then it has a QR code on it. We then bail, my cameraman's lost concentration, we then bail the white polythene bags in here, and they go to get made back into First Mile bags, so it's a really nice closed loop story. I'm just going to pop round the back and show you something else. So you can see there that material's going into the shredder, completely shredded, and I'll show you what happens to that in a second. While that's going through there, I'm going to show you another area. So paper's really important. We can shred it, recycling back in a closed loop way back into paper products. But we also have a data problem with these things, which is hard drives, and it's really important that these are destroyed if you're worried about data, and there's loads of goodies in here to recycle, precious metals, gold, everything in here can be recycled, but before we send it to get recycled, it gets dissolved in a copper bath. We need to destroy it first, and this little shredder here, slow speed shredder, we drop it into the shredder there, get shredded up, and here's what I prepared earlier, which is how the hard drive comes out on the other side, which is totally destroyed, and in here these bits of circuit board get dropped in a chemical bath and all the metals get recovered and get recycled and in the circular economy, so really important. We then go back and see what happens at the end here. So all of that white office paper with confidential data is shredded, dropped through the chute here, and goes into this big compactor, which forces it up into a half-ton bale, which is over here. And this is all the shredded paper, which goes off, can't be read anymore. That goes into a recycling factory where it's pulped, and the fibres are broken down, it's de-inked, and it gets turned back into two products. One is 100% recycled white copier paper, so if you send us your confidential paper for shredding, it comes back into copier paper, and you can buy that on our website, shop.thefirstmile.co.uk. And if it's a lower grade material that's got more ink on it, it goes to make tissue products. So we've been solving the shortage of loo roll during the coronavirus pandemic. So those products go to those materials there. We're now going to have a bit of a walk to look at the delivery side of what we're doing. So one of the things that people quite often, customers ask us on these Instagram lives is if we can make it there without falling over on our faces. One of the things that people ask us on the Instagram lives is what's the main level of main type of contamination that comes into recycling bags and recycling products. And we're actually going to walk directly into the main type of contamination, which is on of food waste contaminated, and we'll show you that when we go onto the line. And people need to keep food separate because people tend to put it in with the recycling, and that's the main type of contamination. It's not complicated. Keep your food waste separate, and I'll tell you what we do with that in a second, but that's the main level of contamination. The other thing that we do to reduce the amount of contamination, the same way the confidential bag had a little QR code on it so we could track it through the security process. We also put QR codes on all of our recycling sacks, and when we deliver the bags, we connect this QR code, and every single bag we sell 30 million bags a year. They're made out of 100% recycled polymer. Everyone has a QR code on it. That is connected to the customer when we deliver the sacks to the customer. And we can pull this bag out at any point in the supply chain, scan it with our proprietary technology, our own app, and that will send an automated report to the customer to say that they have contaminated their material, and we give them advice and help in terms of how to improve their recycling. So what we're doing here is something which is very difficult with the waste industry. By virtue of the material we collect being waste, it isn't recorded, it isn't measured, and what we're doing here is putting a layer of data and capturing data over the material that we're collecting, and we're using that to enhance the reporting we give to customers, and we're also using it as a way of tracking down contamination, which is quite often food waste, tracking down contamination and helping customers to recycle better. So that's really important. In here is our distribution centre for sacks. We send sacks out to customers, and we've got 12 delivery vehicles. I'll show you those in a second. If you place an order with us today, you'll get the delivery next day, and we have a team in here at night packing the orders up and sending out the deliveries next day, and that's for all of our recycling sacks and our wheelie bins, which are kept at another part of the yard. So the deliveries that we do are predominantly made by our fleet of electric vehicles. Normally these would be out on the road delivering, but at the moment we've only got a certain consumes renewable energy only, and these are fantastic vehicles for doing the deliveries at the moment. And I'll show you one of the collection vehicles at the end. At the moment, the electric for collection vehicles isn't a viable alternative yet. So the collection vehicles are low emission diesel vehicles that are ultra low emission zone compliant. So everything's done electric vehicles, all fantastic work. Let's talk about food recycling for a second now. So the food that we collect across London, 7 days a week food collection, and all of our vehicles, show you one in a second, have a separate food recycling pod on them. We collect the food, it comes back to here, we do a quick check of it, gets tipped into the large tipping hall behind us, and then it gets transferred into this skip. We're taking one of these skips a night of food waste, and the great thing about collecting food waste and recycling it in London, it goes to a facility called an anaerobic digester. There's two types of bacteria. One breaks down the sugars and the other one consumes the sugars and produces gas, methane gas. That gas is then cleaned, mixed with natural gas and fed into the grid. So if you're boiling your kettle on a gas hob at home, it has a proportion of the food waste from London's businesses that's come via us. 60 days later it's converted into gas and fed into the grid. And if the surplus gas, the gas grid can't store energy. If the surplus gas That gas is put through an engine to generate electricity, which charges the vehicles that we're doing deliveries with as well. So this week's Circular Economy Week, and everything you're seeing here is about circular economy and how we're taking waste, using it as a resource and turning it back into products, back into energy, back into the deliveries that go out there. So a huge amount of circularity here. We're now just going to go over, we'll get a nice view of lots of vehicles, and as I said, because of coronavirus we're not as busy as normal, and you'll see as we go past some of the vehicles they've got stickers in the window say do not use, and that's because we've just taken them off the road until we get busier again after coronavirus. So this is some of the fleet here that's having a little sleep and a rest. This is what furloughed vehicles look like. If anyone's on furlough, they look like this, not working out at the gym or baking. We're just going to pop into our recycle lab now, where we take receipts of recycled boxes, and I'll explain what they're. Don't trip over, Joe. Before we head in here, this is where our waste electronics come in, and there's some pre-sorting here before the electronics go off to get if they're resaleable, they get the data cleansed, they get revamped, and then we sell them on as a reused either complete machine or components for people who want to do some IT work. So this is our recycle box solution for businesses and members of the public who want to recycle very specific items. There's some items on here: coffee cups, compostables, clothing, coffee pods. We're doing a partnership with Decent Packaging, who were on Instagram Live a few weeks ago, and there's a podcast coming up with Decent on there as well. And we do a deal with Hunter Wellies. We took over Hunter Wellies' IG TV Live a few weeks ago as well, and people send us back their weird and wonderful things. They come into here, they get opened up, they get logged, they get weighed, we do lots of nice reports on them, and then they go off to be recycled. If we can't recycle things, we then start to work with universities, with entrepreneurs, to figure a way of how we recycle material. So everything that comes back here is either recycled, or we're working on it to figure out how to recycle it in the future. So this is the lab, this is the recycle box, what happens there. And we have in this area here, it's a bit scruffy today. This is like a live demo, so there's no things. We have some things in here, fluorescent tube recycling, so all the weird and wonderful thing that comes out of offices. These are full of batteries, dry cell, wet cell batteries, everything gets recycled here. Cooking oil, so really important. We'll go this way, Joe, so we don't kill ourselves. Back past the furloughed vehicles. Now we're going to head up. The moment you've all been waiting for is into the Sacktory to see where the materials come in. So what happens at the Sacktory? We're collecting dry materials together. So we've taken out the food waste. That's collected separately, goes to energy generation. What we're then doing is collecting dry waste together, and we're putting it through. This is called the Sacktory because we're sorting out sacks effectively. But what we're doing here is a pre-sort to work out what material is good enough quality to go on to the next stage of the recycling journey, and what material is either heavily contaminated or non-recyclable, and that goes on for incineration to generate energy. Nothing goes to landfill at first mark. So let's have a look here. So what's happening here? First of all, in the little bay in the middle, there's a big sign above us, acute. That's food waste, and you can see there it's horrible, soggy, there's some liquid coming out of it. You'd probably think that's disgusting, but we love that stuff because we can generate energy from it, and we want it separate because it's going to contaminate things. We then have here Jemovic on the Kramer. I recognise him. Who is loading up the material. So the material there, you can see, is very dry, lots of lovely cardboard to get recycled. That can get recycled back into a cardboard box in 14 days. Jemovic is loading that into the conveyor belt, and then we'll go up here in a second to see the sorting taking place. And then we have some cardboard here that's separated out for recycling. So let's go and see what's happening at so this is the access point. We're going through the back. So follow me. So that's us going round the back of the building. This is the view from the other side. So the material is loaded up there by Jemovic on the Kramer. That's into the conveyor belt, and it comes up onto this picking platform as well. it's very simple, and because it's simple, it works. This facility, when we're busy, we run this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we're processing about 220 tonnes per day. And on a normal day, the pile that's over there, this is pre-coronavirus, the pile over there, if Joe zooms in on that, that's about 4 hours worth of waste the first mile of collecting from London businesses. Probably about 24 hours worth at the moment because we're much quieter. And what's happening here, very simply, is everything that's been taken off the conveyor belt into this first chute is going for incineration, and that's not of good enough quality to be recycled. Everything that's staying on the conveyor belt is going to the next stage of recycling. So what's happening here is that this material will then go on to get sorted into paper, cardboard, plastic, metal bottles. We're not doing the individual sorting at this stage. What we're doing is an initial can it be recycled, can't it be recycled, sortation process. And if we look on the side here, this is the material that can't be recycled that's going to incineration. And immediately what you notice is there's some items on there that could be recycled that are on the side. So there's a piece of cardboard there. But what happens is as we're checking the material and it gets dropped below, the bags tend to open up. And this for us is very frustrating because what we're seeing is material that is totally recyclable put into the wrong bag. At this stage we're doing a very broad sort of material. But the good news is that people often put recyclable material into a general waste bag, as is the case here. So this is a general waste bag, but it's full of materials that can be recycled at the next stage. So actually the net effect of the Sacktory is that we get a higher recycling rate than if we just left it to individuals. Individuals and businesses did the right thing all of the time, didn't contaminate anything, didn't put things into the wrong bag, this process wouldn't be required at all. So what we're doing is enhancing the recycling rate by putting the material through the freezer.
Someone's asked, is there a preferred type of sack for recyclables to go in, or a material for the sack to be made out of?
So the material that we use, very good question. So the type of sack that we like is semi-transparent, because what we want to be able to do is to have a look to see if there's any contamination in it without completely opening it. And we'll see some first mile sacks coming past in a second, I'll show you that. And also we use low density polyethylene, LDPE. And we use that because customers have a preference because it's a bit stretchy when you fill the bag, where high density polyethylene is like a Tesco carrier bag and it tends to rip easy. LDPE is a really common type of plastic, so this is all LDPE here as well, and it can be recycled. It's used a lot for shrink wrap, it's used a lot for garment hangers. This is almost over your razor. This is all LDPE here, and if you don't believe me, number 4 LDPE. This is a great plastic, highly recyclable, and all of the bags that go through the recycling process are recycled back into black bin bags, which gives them another life. It's not forever, but it gives them another life. So if we have a look down here, this you won't believe. Back through the Sacktory, and this machine here, which is, if you zoom in on this, Joe, this big thing here with a big pipe on it wobbling, and there's a head down here. This is a giant hoover. So Dyson eat your heart out. We've got a much bigger hoover than Dyson. And what we do when we put the glass back through, glass is heavy, lemon slices, plastic straws, tin cans are all light. The big hoover pulls all the light fragment off. Hey presto, we have clean glass. The reason we take glass off at this stage is that it goes back into container glass for jam jars, wine bottles, milk bottles, and that is then a more circular product. Glass is a permanent material that can be recycled over and over again. If we send glass with mixed recycling, which is less preferable, that ends up being a roadstone, and it is an eco-aggregate substitute. So it's still a good product, but it's not as good as keeping a permanent material in the circular economy. So that's what we're doing here. We're sorting it out. We have all the lovely dry recyclables on the conveyor belt. These are all heading off to the next facility, which is our partners with materials recovery facilities, and they'll sort it into the different fragments and the different segregations. And we've effectively here got 2 conveyor belts going up nice and smooth in front of me. I did it through 50 stars. We have on this side the residual waste which is going to incineration, and on this side we have the mixed recycles that are going on to get further sorted and going into the circular economy. What people tend not to realise is actually the recycling supply chain is very long, and there's a number of different elements. And what we're doing here is the first pre-sort, which is immensely important because we're taking out everything that's a contaminant in the dry materials, which makes the next stage much more effective and much more easy. We'll see what happens to these two conveyor belts when we get outside. Thanks guys.
Thank you all.
The only problem with IG Live is you can't smell what it's like here, and everyone goes, oh, it's going to smell terrible. It smells of coffee. Because there's a lot of coffee in London, and the whole place.
So you need to give a hello to our Chilean watchers, Bruce.
Hi in Chile, if you're watching in Chile, hello, it's great to have you here. I hope everything is looking fantastic in South America, and hopefully you're enjoying the Sacktory tour. Hi Chile. So what happens here then is the conveyor belts, there's one and there's exactly the same thing on the other side. Conveyor belt drops the material into this big chamber here, and then here there's a 400 ton per square inch pressure ram, which is bailing the material into the back of this articulated lorry, and we're compacting the material. So our small collection vehicles, you'll see them in a second, collect on average about 3 tons, and they're perfect for collecting in urban environments. This vehicle is not good in central London, but it's very good for trunking waste to recycling facilities or to incinerators. So what we're doing is we're only 4 miles from central London. We're taking a small urban collection vehicle, which is appropriate for central London. We collect it from our customers, we bring the material back here, we sort it out into what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, we take out the food, we take out the glass, and then we bail it into these massive trucks where we're getting 20 tons of material and we're trunking it. So it's great for the environment, it reduces road miles, it reduces CO2, it reduces emissions, and we're getting a higher recycling rate from the material that we're processing as well. So overall, it's win-win. So the material ends up in here, we weigh it and we ship it out. We're going to have a look at one last thing. This is some wheelie bins that we're delivering out to our customers, new customers. We love new customers. Just show you the last thing before we leave the IG Live. If you've got any questions, ask them now. We are just going to show you the configuration of the vehicle. So this is one of our lovely collection delivery vehicles, little electric vehicle there. But in terms of our collection vehicles, the way that we keep emissions down, it's an ultra low emission vehicle in the first place, and eventually this will become a battery powered vehicle, but it's not economic to do that at the moment, and it's not good for the environment either, because we double ship these vehicles, and because charging is so slow of conventional electric vehicle batteries at the moment, we'd need twice as many vehicles, so the embedded carbon would be absolutely massive. So this vehicle has 2 compartments. This is the food pod at the front, and we always collect the wet food waste, coffee waste separate to the dry portion, which goes in the back, and all of our vehicles are configured with a food pod and a dry pod at the back. The dry pod then comes to the Sacktory, where we separate the materials out into recycling, residual. The residual gets incinerated, the food goes to anaerobic digestion, and the recycling component goes into the recycling supply chain to get separated into the different components. That is it from the Sacktory virtual tour. We've got another question.
Got some questions, yes. So what happens to cardboard when it gets recycled?
For cardboard to get recycled, cardboard's an amazing material. Gets recycled back into a cardboard box in 14 days. From here, the cardboard will either go direct if we separated it, but it'll go to a recycling factory, a MRF, materials recycling facility. They'll separate the cardboard, bale it, send it to a paper mill in the UK. That paper mill will put it into a big bath of nice hot water. It'll convert it into pulp. The pulp will then be cleaned to get any ink off it, any sellotape off it, any staples out of it, and then it'll be reformed into craft sheet and then made into cardboard.
And then another one from Megan McCrazy. Can you settle a long-standing debate between me and my partner? Can plastic film be recycled?
Hi Megan. Plastic film definitely can be recycled. The issue is whether your local council collects it for recycling. So there's lots of different, as with all plastics, there's lots of different types of plastics. And the problem with plastic film, the hard thing is separating it, working out what it is, and then putting it into a recycling facility. So if you were listening earlier when we were talking about what our plastic bags are made from, which is LDPE, which is low density polyethylene, that's the easiest polymer, and it's quite a prolific polymer to recycle. The difficulty is there's PET, there's HDPE, there's polypropylene, there's lots of different types of polymer which all get recycled in different ways. So definitely can be recycled, but if you separate it and you know it's LDPE or HDPE, then it can be recycled. The issue is how do we separate it and get it into the material stream?
And then we got one more, which is, can you tell us something about key keg recycling?
Yeah, we can, and we can do that live and get away from this backdrop and have a look at some key kegs over here. So as part of our recycle lab, we were contacted by some brewers, some wholesalers, and said, we've got these things called, we'd never heard of them, we've got these things called key kegs, do you recycle them? We never heard of them. We contacted Key Keg and said, we're getting customers wanting to return key kegs, can we work on a recycling program? So with the manufacturer, we've now got a closed loop recycling service. So I'm sure some viewers won't know what these are, but these are a single-use plastic beer keg called Key Keg, and they normally have a brewer's name on them. So these are a good container for micro brewers or restaurants that want to serve draft beer that don't shift a lot of beer, so it reduces the wastage of the product. But then it causes another problem, which is this packaging thing that somehow needs to be managed and dealt with. So we were getting customers asking us about how we recycle key kegs. We now have a scheme in place where we collect the key kegs. You might have seen the First Mile sticker, Key Keg Recycling. We collect these key kegs, they go back to a key keg partner, and they shred this entire thing down. They remove the polymer bag inside, which can't be recycled. They shred all of the plastic. The black base is made out of the same type of plastic as the container. So this whole thing is shredded, remelted, and it makes the base and the top of the key keg. This has to be virgin polymer each time, so it's coming in contact with the product. But the top and the bottom is 100% recycled key keg. So again, it's a circular economy system, and that's how we recycle key kegs.
So I think there's one more question, then anyone we missed can probably just send us a DM.
Yeah.
So Marcel Fortune says, what's the benefit of sending materials to your Sacktory, then onto a MRF, where it goes through another sorting process before being recycled?
Hi Marcel, good question. So the benefit is that we have less vehicles on the road, and we're not using urban vehicles to trunk material a long way. So the little vehicles we're looking at over there, they only collect about 3 tons. And often recycling facilities, well, not often, always recycling facilities are not in central London. They're between 5 and 25 miles away. So bringing the material here, where at one level reducing the road mileage because we're trunking it up and then taking it further distance, and we're using the appropriate vehicle. So that's one benefit, which is low impact delivery, low impact collections, low impact recycling. But the other massive benefit is we are reducing the level of contamination in the material, and we're sending the MRFs a really clean material that they can then process. And what we're not doing is taking material that can go directly to an incinerator via a recycling factory, where it potentially bursts open and contaminates tens and tens of tons of material. So it's putting clean material into the process in the first place. If that answers the question. I think we'll wrap up there. Half an hour. It's been great seeing everybody for First Mile's virtual Sacktory tour. Thank you, Joe, for doing the filming. We managed to get around without falling over. Thanks for your questions. Jess will do her usual wrap up, so if there's anybody didn't get their question answered, we'll put details on afterwards. This will be going on IGTV live. We'll be sharing it on our story, so you can see it then, and we'll see you all next week. Bye bye.